So I'm assuming everybody's in the right place at the Burlington Wine Club. Anyway, so welcome. And actually, the first thing we should do is if everybody's got some sparkling, maybe a cheers, and Shiraz can talk about the sparkling in a minute or two, but cheers, welcome to the Burlington Wine Club, to our monthly meeting.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Okay. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the club somm. My name is Teresa. And you'll see, if you're new to the Burlington Wine Club, you'll see me on a regular basis going forward. A little bit about housekeeping. We are recording the session, so it's always videotaped and it's always posted on our YouTube channel at the end within the next few days. If you do not want to be a participant or you don't want to be showcased on the video, then you can turn off your video and just have your name. And all the preamble, the first half hour and stuff all gets cut out. So it's only really the formal part of the presentation. But turn your video off if you don't want to participate. If you have any questions, and we would encourage questions, we have, two dynamic people with us tonight. So it's going to be a fun evening. If you've got any questions at all about the wines, the winery, the agency, anything at all, ask your questions in the Q&A box. And there's also a chat box. So if you have any comments or you just want a reaction to things, and sometimes you'll be asked about whether or not you like the wine and food pairing, or if you like the particular wines, or, you might be asked questions, you put some answers in the chat box. My co-host Marilyn, who's been doing this for the entire time that we've been in COVID, who's awesome. She's going to check the Q&A and the chat boxes on a regular basis. And if either Nancy, Shiraz, or I are terribly boring, or there's a lull in the conversation, Marilyn will interrupt and ask her questions and keep things going for us. So we also have a speaker mode and a gallery mode. Those are different views. I would encourage you to use speaker mode while the presenters are on, but the gallery mode is also cool because it will show everybody at the same time, all small pictures. But especially when we're sharing screens and Shiraz is speaking, the speaker mode is probably a good mode to be in. Okay, so that's kind of the housekeeping. Welcome. So we actually have 5 new members.
I know.
Everybody okay? So we have 5 new members. Suzanne, and I just saw you earlier. Nice to meet you. I've never met you in person. Kath and Len and Claire and Stephen. Pardon?
So thanks, Teresa.
Okay, wonderful. And I can't wait to meet you in person. But welcome to the club. And we have a couple of returning members as well, Judy and Linda. So 5 new faces tonight. The last events, so last month we had Dan Duran with Darlene Emberley. And if any of you ordered a case of sparkling, it's still on its way. It's been a little bit delayed, and Darlene is in South Africa. So it's tricky to follow up with her at the moment. Can't wait to hear about it when she gets back. And the other thing we did last month was the truffle making class with Chocolate Tales. So we've done a couple of events with Chocolate Tales, and the truffles were awesome and the toppings were great. So if you had a chance to do it, wonderful. If not, maybe we'll do it some other time again. Some of the things that we have coming up. So April 29th is Sylvester Wines and Spirits with Lindsay Groves. And some of you may know Lindsay from a port tasting that she specializes in, but this one's going to be wines from Sylvester, and she's going to be representing the wines. May 27th, not confirmed yet, so I shan't say. And then July 22nd to 24th, I want to remind people, the tickets aren't on sale yet, and Danielle, hopefully we can work together on putting something together for the International Cool Climate Chardonnay Celebration. It's a 3-day festival. There's a School of Cool on the Friday, and then there's a gala dinner on Saturday night, and there are some breakfasts on Sunday mornings. And we can arrange for hotel accommodation at White Oaks or some of the surrounding areas, and tickets for some of the dinners. Anyway, I've been to it many times, and it's really worthwhile. And it's the first time it's been live in the last 3 years, so it should be really interesting. In terms of going forward, the plan is we're going to stay virtual from now through May, and then all things being a go in the province, we're going to be live again in June. But what we thought we would do is in June, and we need to finalize it yet, but the thinking is we will have one first live session, probably in my backyard, as opposed to a formal facility. And it will be only for members only. So all of you that have been with us for the last 2 years, or those of you that have just joined us in the last few months, it'll be an opportunity for us to get together. We'll have some food and wine. We'll have the official meeting, but in the backyard, for those of us that haven't actually met each other, we'll get a chance to do that. And we'll have at least one live meeting before we invite all the rest of the folks from pre-COVID to come back and join us. So if you have any comments about that or thoughts about that, do not hesitate to either put something in the chat or send me an email if you have any ideas. But that's the thinking at this moment. So tonight we have Malivoire Winery, Nancy Kennedy. Nancy's come out a number of times before. We're delighted to have you back, Charlotte. And Shiraz, the winemaker. So I'm going to just talk about the sparkling and your pairing, which is the potato chips. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, Nancy, maybe to make a toast and talk a little bit, introduce Shiraz perhaps.
Sure.
And get us started.
Okay. Oh, you want me to do that now? I thought you were doing your food pairing.
No, no. Okay, so the sparkling, so the sparkling we have, it's a Malivoire sparkling, and Shiraz will talk about it. But of course, our traditional pairing with the sparkling that is so common are the potato chips.
Yeah.
So nothing new and different there. There you go. Cheers. Again.
Cheers. Cheers.
Now, do you want me to, I'll stop share maybe and you can talk. There we go.
Sure. Hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our tasting tonight. It's great to be back. I've been with you several times and you're wonderful. And tonight it's my privilege to have the winemaker of Malivoire Wine Company, a wonderful, wonderful winery that was just awarded the Canadian National Winery of the Year. So we're very happy, very proud of Shiraz and all his team and everyone at Malivoire for making that happen. So we're in for a treat tonight. A little bit about Malivoire. Malivoire was founded in 1995 by Martin Malivoire and his wife, Moira, who came to Niagara from Toronto. He was a special effects director in the film industry and decided he wanted to change his career into wine. And I don't even know what that process must have taken because that's a big leap, but he's made an incredible success with his team. And they have a wonderful winemaker, Shiraz, who's been in the business, I think probably, 24 years. I know that he and Rob Power from Creekside were the graduating class of the first class of winemakers out of Brock University at Covey. So he's been in this industry for quite a while and worked his way up through the ranks at Malivoire to be the head winemaker. And what an incredible job he's done. Sustainability is very important to Malivoire. So they do everything they possibly can to repurpose all the building materials, integrate pest management, preservation of the natural habitat. The vineyards, lightweight packaging, all winery operations are designed for a maximum reduction of environmental impact, which was very, very pioneer when they did this. They were one of the first wineries to do this type of building and sustainability, which everyone's talking about now. The winery was designed to use gravity. So it's a top-down operation where the grapes are gently pressed and filtered their way down through the winery. If you've ever been there, it's pretty cool, and you should go. It's pretty awesome. It's very gentle, because the last thing you want to do is bruise the grapes. So it's a very slow, lovely, gentle process of the grapes being crushed. And Shiraz is responsible for the viticulture and winemaking operations with the assistance of his assistant winemaker, Daniel Stout, and Elisa Mazzi. She actually does the sparklings, your Che Bello that you're having tonight, right now. So with the philosophy of excellence, sustainability, and purpose, their efforts result in expressive wines of purity and balance, reflective of their unique environment. And a little bit about Shiraz. He was born and raised in Fergus, the beautiful little town of Fergus. And he entered the Cool Climate Oenology Institute at Brock in 1997 and was a member of its first graduating class in 2000. Shiraz joined the team of Malivoire as a cellar hand, and within a year, he was assistant winemaker, and 3 vintages later, he was the head winemaker in 2005. Shiraz personifies Malivoire's founding in philosophy. A winery's excellence begins with its healthy soil and vines and depends on minimal human manipulation of the fruit and the wine. His passion is to allow each vintage to express its own unique character, reflecting the year in which it was grown. And sometimes, you know, Mother Nature hasn't been kind. So I look at these winemakers and think what magicians they actually are, to be able to, you know, pivot on their feet. So at the end of his days, Shiraz returns home to his home in Beamsville Vineyard, where he finds 3 hectares of Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and the newly planted Melon de Bourgogne, which you're going to have. It was in your kits tonight. Shiraz reserves time for travel when we can, and now we can. And enjoyment of live music and outdoor recreation, spending time with his wife, Isa, and his 3 children. Shiraz was thrilled to be Winemaker of the Year by the Ontario Wine Awards, and his recognition of his excellence and contributions to the province's wine industry. So I'm going to turn over the tasting to our wonderful winemaker and Winery of the Year, Shiraz Mottiar. Take it away, Shiraz, wherever you are. I don't see you on my page.
I'm here.
Welcome, Shiraz. Awesome.
Thank you, Nancy, for such a really thorough introduction.
Was it too long?
Well, you covered a lot of what's in my presentation, but that's okay. I'll just now have to elaborate a little bit more. But that's good for everyone who's joining us. And yeah, and thank you to Teresa and Marilyn and everyone at the Burlington Wine Club for inviting us and inviting me to share the evening together and taste wines together, and hopefully you know, in the not too distant future, as you said, Teresa, you know, you'll start doing these things live again, and it'll be even that much more intimate and fun. But I think you know, we've learned and adapted a lot with this pandemic, and being able to do these things virtually is pretty amazing. And you know, to the logistics that goes into putting all these wines together and out to everybody, it's a real testament to some creative thinking, and as Nancy says, kind of like what we do as winemakers. We're always dancing around on our feet and trying to adapt, change, learn, and always make good wines for everybody to enjoy. So thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope tonight is informative and fun. Like what was mentioned, just go ahead and ask questions. I'm not the best at keeping my eye on the chat, but if Teresa or Marilyn, like you said, Teresa, if there's a pause and there's a question, I'm happy to answer it.
Yep.
So this is good. So I'm going to try and share my screen and get my presentation up.
Okay, and Shiraz, if you don't mind, if you would talk a little bit about the sparkling that we're tasting.
Oh, absolutely. I'll start there.
We've had a toast there, so yeah.
Yeah, cheers to that. Thank you for including that. I think sparkling is one of our real huge futures of Ontario. I think, you know, there's always been a belief in sparkling wine in Ontario, and certain wineries like Trius and Henry of Pelham and Cave Spring have really been making some exceptional sparkling wines. 13th Street as well. And even I think back to the original wineries before my time, and there was a sparkling wine house in Beamsville once upon a time. So I think it's great to come back to this. We started making sparkling in about 10, 11, 12 years ago. But this wine you're having is a really cool one because we kind of include what I like to call heritage varieties. So it's a blend of Riesling and Seyval Blanc, which works beautifully well because it's fruity. It's got loads of acidity, and so it's really fresh and vibrant. And this is made in an Italian style, like a prosecco. So hence the name Che Bello, which means how lovely. And my winemaker Elisa Mazzi, who comes from northern Italy in Verona, so not too far from where all the great sparkling wines are made in Italy. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think she discovered her love of sparkling until she came to Canada. And then once I kind of saw that, I'm like, here, have some fun with this, and we're creating some really, really fun stuff. So it's a really fresh, fruity sparkling wine, and it's very affordable, and it's always available at the LCBO. So please enjoy it all the time. It's an everyday sparkling. So yeah, I'll just go through my presentation. This is my welcome page to Malivoire. I'm assuming since many of the club members live so close to us, only a half an hour drive, you visited us, so you're familiar with this tasting room. But and it's hopefully you'll be swinging by soon. We're back open, and you know, you can come in for a tasting, and certainly book if you're a larger group, and then you can have this bar for yourselves. So this is Martin Malivoire. He is the founder, and hence the name Malivoire Winery. This is a guy, and he's a pretty remarkable guy, and a cool boss. And he's, as Nancy kind of alluded to, he started as a transition away from being a special effects producer. So he kind of made his way through sort of the Toronto film scene, starting at the CBC and then getting into feature films. And back before computer graphics became a big thing in film, he was more of the old school type of film director. So he was the guy responsible for explosions and cars flipping over and snow falling in the middle of summer and things like that. That was his thing. And so it takes a certain kind of personality and mind and way of thinking to do that. And he actually brought that to the winery. So Nancy, when you're curious about what that transition was, I think it was actually quite seamless for him. In fact, I think he really enjoyed, being able to use his creative mind. He's also very much of a designer, because when you're building something to blow up, you actually have to design it and build it properly to blow up or fall apart. The lamp leg in A Christmas Story, he built the mold. He actually had the model and took the mold and created a whole bunch of those. And to make it break the right way in that scene, it's something he has to do. So he had a lot of fun, I think, with it. And back in those days, he was still kind of doing films while kind of building the winery, and that's sort of around the time that I started. I was attracted to Malivoire as a winery because I was seeing and hearing about this winery that was doing so many different things. Oh, there's no metal in this vineyard; it's all wood or bamboo, and oh, the vine spacing is different. And gosh, you should go up there and check it out. They've terraced this one little spot, and they're making a gravity winery. Go check this out. So it was all these things that kind of, as I was going to school in the first couple of years, and you hear what's going on, it's like, all right, this is really cool. And as soon as I graduated, it was the first place I made it be to apply for a job, and got lucky. So that's Martin. He flies helicopters. He builds planes. He in his spare time he buys vans and turns them into campers and then sells them, or turns an old trailer and blings it up and sells it. This is the sort of stuff he likes to do. So he's been invaluable to me in the cellar, because if there's something that I need welded or built or designed, he has an intuitive brain to kind of see the solution and fabricate something. And he's done some remarkable things. One of the coolest things that I think he's done is I was just bottling today and yesterday, and we have a mobile truck that comes around to do the bottling. And he actually designed the very first one in Ontario. And before we even ever used it, he sold it to somebody, and they became the main bottler in all of Ontario. So that's kind of cool. So that's Martin. This is us. I'm sure you've seen this if you've been here. This is our location on the Beamsville bench, and we just produce VQA wines. We have 50 acres on the Beamsville bench. If you include my little farm, that makes 60. And then we have a couple more farms, one on the 20-mile bench, which isn't producing right now. We've just replanted, and one in the Vinemount Ridge, which is on top of the escarpment. And we grow Gamay there, and the Riesling for the Che Bello. So, but this is our home, and the Beamsville bench, I'm sure is such a unique terroir, and we like to think of it as very much of a crew class site with amazing climate, the terroir from the composition of the soil, the clay loam till, glacial till that we have to grow grapes is absolutely perfect. Beautiful structure from the calcareous soils too. That calcium really adds structure to the wines, and the climate, being cooler climate, especially during ripening, helps us retain acidity and make beautiful long aged wines. And as I know we grow amazing Chardonnay and Riesling and Pinot Noir, Cab Franc, and Gamays. Now we don't grow Cab Franc and we don't grow Riesling on the bench, but Chardonnay and Gamay are our main wines, as is Pinot Noir. So beautiful spot. Please come visit, and you're always welcome to drive up and around and check out the vineyards. And Nancy alluded to us being certified a sustainable winemaking Ontario. It's actually changed. The organization has rebranded itself to Sustainable Wine Growing Ontario, so that it encompasses both the vineyard and the winery. So as we have been using this philosophy since the inception of the winery. We've taken a very environmental approach in the vineyard. We're very cognizant that we're right beside the Niagara Escarpment, which is a UNESCO biosphere. We have the Cave Spring conservation area right behind us as well. So we have to take care of this fragile location, and we do our best to minimize as much inputs as possible. And so before the sustainable wine growing organization was in place, like we did get something started way back in 2007, but it wasn't until about 2015 or so that it really started to gain traction. And then the vineyard portion came on a couple years later. But we've actually been following the principles of LIVE in Oregon, which stands for low input viticulture and enology. And it really is about reducing your impact in every aspect. And we've been doing that without really thinking about it. Sustainable, I don't think, was really a concept when Martin built the winery, but the Quonset material is such a efficient use of material because it's also it's the exterior as well as the structure. So it's held up just by the ribs of the steel, and I think that's a really cool building material. And of course, you can see that it's built on the side of a hill, and so we can utilize gravity, which I'll get to in a moment. And so a lot of other elements that you'll see when you come to the winery, the welcoming kind of facade with the recycled telephone poles and the odd stones from the quarry that didn't fit the crusher, all kind of worked into our landscape, and we try to only plant native plants around, and it's keeping some of the flowers in the rows to flower, so that pollinators have a spot to go, so we don't mow it down all the time. So it's really trying to find that balance or that harmony, and that's sort of a theme that I think comes through in all our wines. So here is gravity. Again, if you've come to the winery and you've looked up, you can kind of get a sense of it. But we have this little schematic just here. I forgot to put my little pointer on, but if you're looking up into the schematic, again, you can kind of get a sense that the fruit comes into the top of the winery and works its way down. So we have the fermenters here, and then we have the press in the middle of the winery, which is fairly rare. We do have a press at the front end too, where our whites come, but we actually do all our pressing of reds in the middle of the winery. And then of course we have the barrels. So everything kind of goes downhill for aging. And then we actually have this really great, a couple of these great tanks that we just pull with the tractor, and we move the wine back up to the top again, and then we can get it ready for bottling. So really ingenious. It was the first of its kind in Canada. I've been visiting a winery in Oregon, Ponzi, and they were building it when I went to go visit, and I'm like, wow, this looks familiar. I work in Niagara at Malivoire. And she's like, oh yeah, I visited that place. I was actually inspired by that winery, and so it's kind of cool that we've had that global influence. So I think it's a great. You get really big calf muscles working in this winery because it's just up and down, up and down, up and down. So I've never gone to the gym. I probably should, but I've always let myself believe I've never had to. So yeah. So that's sort of the schematic of the winery. Now we haven't grown too much. Like, we started pretty small because our vineyards weren't really producing a lot. When I started 20 plus years ago, we were only making 5,000 cases a year. And then by the end of the knots, we were making around 10 or 12,000 cases a year. The winery was always built to take around 20 to 25,000 cases a year. So by about 2015, we got there, and we've kind of stayed there. It's a comfortable size. It's the size of our facility, and so there's no point in growing anymore. Now we can just hone in on our specialties and really focus on quality. In terms of production, and I think very few wineries can say this, almost 40% of our wine production is rosé. So that really is one of our main specialties. And then the rest is evenly split between white and red. Most of it in the white is Chardonnay, and most of it in the red is Gamay. Interestingly, the Gamay was planted to be the base of our rosé, but then once we discovered how great Gamay grew on the bench, we changed it around. And the Pinot Noir, which we thought was going to be the star red of the bench, is now our main rosé. So that's kind of cool. But like I said, we've always been happy to learn and change and do something quite different. No one would have believed that you could take the best land in Niagara and plant Pinot Noir and then decide to make it all into rosé. But that's what we've done, and it's worked really well for us.
Shiraz,
yes.
Can I interrupt just for
Please.
a second?
Please.
So we all had the sparkling, and we have a flight of whites in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we could interrupt and just introduce a couple of the whites.
Yeah, sure. So that
people can have some sips while they're listening to you.
Okay, for sure. So, well, I don't have all the wines with me because I'm not needing to taste them all, but I do have the 2021 Milan.
Okay. And you know what? I'll share my screen for a second with the first flight, so you'll see it. And do
you want me to stop share?
You know what? My guess is I'll go over top of you, but we'll see.
Yeah.
There we go. How's that? And then I'll get out of your way.
Yeah, no worries. Okay.
Okay. So the flight of whites, and then I'll talk to the food pairings. Okay. Tell us what we have here.
Sure. The 2021 Milan de Bourgogne we actually planted Milan at the winery back in 1999. Martin ordered today. He ordered Muscat, and what he got was Muscadet, and kind of scratched his head. And I'm wondering if that's the right grape, but he planted anyway. And then 4 years later, when we first made the wine, it was discovered that it was certainly Muscadet, and which is or Milan de Bourgogne, as the grape is formally known as. But it's beautiful. We're really happy that he planted it, and I was so happy that he planted it that I actually took cuttings from it and planted it in my vineyard too. So this is the second year that my fruit has been part of this blend. Now it's made pretty quickly. It's really well suited to Ontario. It ripens very early. It retains its acidity, but it gets beautiful aromatics. And really nice sort of a lime note, but also a little bit of a saline note in behind, and lots of nice energy. So it has sort of like maybe the fruit composition of maybe a Chardonnay, but the acidity and the energy of a Riesling. So I think it's just the perfect grape for us, and it goes beautifully. You've chosen a great food pairing. It goes great with seafood, because Milan de Bourgogne is in Muscadet, it's right on the sea, and oysters are the perfect pairing. And I think even with this wine, East Coast oysters especially are just perfect.
It was really tricky to put East Coast oysters in our bags. But I did think of it.
Yeah, for sure. I would too. But this is great. I'm a huge fan of this wine. I'm playing around with it a little bit too, so it does stay on its lees. Sometimes it gets a little bit of a batonnage, because in Muscadet it is so acidic that you need the leaves to kind of soften it up. But with our climate, we are a little bit warmer, and we can get a little bit more richness naturally. So we can release this very early. So this wine was only picked in October and bottled in December. So it's a really quick turnaround because we like, again, with oysters, we like to get it out while it's still oyster season, because after April, officially, it's not oyster season anymore. I don't know if that still holds true, but that's the old saying goes. It has to have an R. That the month has to have an R in it to be oyster season. Yeah.
So anyway, take a minute,
okay.
folks, and try the Melon de Bourgogne and the shrimp or the lemon roasted potatoes, whichever it is that you have, because we have some vegans and vegetarians and non-seafood people in our crowd. Not that I understand that, but anyway, citrus shrimp or the lemon roasted potatoes, try it with your melon. And if you want to use the chat box to give some feedback to Shiraz about the wine itself and or the food pairing.
So just so everyone is familiar, everyone in the meeting who got a food kit has this wine. That is what the white is. And thank you for bringing it to us, Shiraz. I've put a few links to information about it because it was certainly a foreign word to me. So appreciate your education on that.
And in fact, given a choice of all the wines to put in the kit, this one was deliberately chosen because I thought maybe lots of people wouldn't know what it was and would be trying it for the first time, and I wanted everybody to have a chance to try it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great. Thank you for doing that, Teresa, because it's, when people ask me what are my favorite wines to make, I actually do love making Milan, and maybe part of it is because it's unique and not many other people have tried it, and so I think it's a really great jumping off point. But again, I think if you enjoy seafood a lot, you should become friends with this wine, because it really has the lightness to fit beautifully well, and because of the acidity, it's almost like, when you put like a drizzle of lemon on your fish. This wine almost does the same sort of thing. So that's great. Should I go to the next wine?
Absolutely.
All right, the 2020 Pinot Gris. That's all from the estate vineyard at the winery. Interesting story here. We keep talking about what we've planted, and I think the choices of varieties are so important to getting the right variety in your site, but also for your place in the marketplace and kind of getting something different. So Martin had this huge love for Alsatian whites, and especially Pinot Gris, but also Gewürztraminer. So when he first started the winery, all he wanted to do was grow those varieties, and maybe some Muscat. You know what I mean? Like really an Alsatian style winery. And his very first consultant winemaker was Deborah Pascas, who you may or may not have heard of, but she's a bit of a legend, going back into the 90s, and she was like the #1 consultant, and she essentially told Martin, the bench, you have to plant Chardonnay. That is, we can make the best Chardonnay in the world, so you got to plant Chardonnay. And then he kind of got thinking and started planting Burgundian varieties like Pinot Noir and Gamay as well. But Pinot Gris was one of his first loves, and I think the wine has evolved a little bit from the original sort of Alsatian style that we did many years ago, really rich and oily, to a much more fresh style. I wouldn't call it Pinot Grigio, but it's much closer in that style. It's all stainless steel in fermentation. There is a little bit of skin contact right after harvest to get a little bit more of the aromatics and the flavor from the fruit, because it can be very light. I love sort of the apple and pear notes that you get from Pinot Gris. Sometimes there's a little bit of fennel or licorice note there. And we kind of want to see the complexity of it without being too rich. And again, I kind of always look at wines as being not to be the big show on the middle of the table, but to be part of any meal or occasion. And so I think they have to be somewhat approachable, easygoing, and something you want to have all the time. So this Pinot Gris, and I think the flavors do kind of come a lot from the orchards that you see growing around here. Like not literally, but it has the same connection. So pears and peaches are really flavors and aromas that you see in this Pinot Gris. So I think I don't have the wine, but I have the food. I'm definitely going to try the peach salsa, because I think that would be, again, I would imagine this being a salsa that you drizzle on a lovely barbecued fish or something like that, or maybe you put it on maybe it's like a mahi or something a little bit more, firm style kind of fish. I think that's why I make this Pinot Gris.
In fact, it's funny you should say that, because one of the things that we were thinking about was just having a piece of salmon, which is the next tasting, and maybe having the peach and roasted red pepper salsa as one of the toppings, and the maple as another topping, and because it lends itself to like the fish with the salsa, but salsa on its own or with bread, or have a bit of your salmon with the salsa and see how that works. I have a question for you, Shiraz.
Yeah.
So you've, so I saw this, you've described it as kind of in between sort of the traditional Pinot Grigio and the Pinot Gris. My question is, why did you call it a Pinot Gris rather than a Pinot Grigio?
Oof. If you could go back in time, I don't know. I think it just stems from how we call it in our vineyard. We've just only ever called the grapes Pinot Gris.
Okay.
So, I can kind of get the feeling that, well, stylistically, if it's more Pinot Grigio, maybe you should call it Pinot Grigio, but we grow Pinot Gris. That's the grape. So we've always stuck to calling it Pinot Gris.
Fair enough. And does it see any oak treatment at all?
None whatsoever. Yeah.
All right. Just curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's lovely to have a winemaker on site.
I think I lie. The 2021 has 1 barrel of oaked Pinot Gris in it. So that's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
That's like maybe, I don't know, 2%, but it does have a little bit of oak in it. But really, it's not the intent. I was just playing around. But it's a great variety for Ontario. Again, not something that a lot of people gravitate to. Again, Martin had a real strong feeling for it, and because his vineyard was right beside Cave Spring, that was known so well for Riesling, he was like, you know what, they make so good Riesling, I don't want to compete with them. So it was an easy choice not to plant Riesling. Yeah.
Okay, and if anybody has any comments about the Pinot Gris or the salsa with the Pinot Gris, put it in the chat box for sure. And then your Chardonnay.
Yeah, so this is a blend of 3 vineyards. So the Moira vineyard is the original vineyard planted by Martin back in 1996. And it's predominantly Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And the estate vineyard is where the winery is, and then a little bit of Chardonnay from my vineyard as well. So each farm contributes a different character. My farm, being higher up on the escarpment and a cooler site, tends to bring a lot more citrus notes and lime and green apple. It's a tighter style of Chardonnay. The estate it's full of grapefruit. It's a little bit richer in that citrus camp, and a little bit more of that. It's still appley, but it's got like really good intensity. And then the Moira Chardonnay brings more tropical fruit and breadth. It's a really broad Chardonnay. It's got depth, and And amazingly, it has amazing acidity to kind of work with that. So we've got 3 amazing different sites. And this is a blend of all 3, predominantly made in stainless steel. I'll use different kinds of stainless steel. I'll use like a horizontal tank, but I also use a vertical tank, which adds a little bit more leaf structure to the wine. And there's a little bit of oak in there too, just to kind of give it a little bit of, just to round out the edges, and but not to contribute any sort of oak or leasiness to the wine. So it's a really fresh Chardonnay. I think it really showcases the purity. As Nancy said, what we're going for is purity. This is one of those wines that really showcases the purity of our terroir and the beautiful character of Niagara Chardonnay.
Nice. So, Shiraz, may I suggest I'll turn this off and you can go back to your presentation, let people drink the wines and have some of the food while we're talking to you. Unless, Marilyn, you're finding more, you have some questions or something.
The only question, there's lots and lots of positive comments, so everyone can see those in the chat. I may have missed your pairing rationale, Teresa, the Chardonnay with the salmon.
Oh, well, so first of all, it's no, because I probably didn't talk about it. So the salmon or potato with maple mustard topping. So first of all, Chardonnay and maple have a natural affinity by me. And the salmon is a fleshy meat, fish, a full-bodied fish, and then maple and mustard and the Chardonnay, but light enough that it didn't, because it's the lightly oaked Chardonnay, that it didn't overpower the Chardonnay. So, and the other thing was, we were thinking if we could have figured out how to do it, just the salmon as a centerpiece with the salsa and a maple topping and a number of different toppings to go with the different wines, because the salmon kind of works with the Pinot Gris and the Chardonnay and the Gamay and the Pinot Noir. Like the salmon goes with all of these wines. So if we could have figured out how to do like a nice substantial piece of salmon with half a dozen different toppings, we would have done it, but maybe when we're live. So Chardonnay, salmon, maple, always a natural pairing for me. And lightly oaked, so not over the top strength. And it's interesting because we did roasted potatoes, and instead of the citrus shrimp, we did the same sauce with the potatoes, and then we did the same sauce with potatoes with the maple mustard potatoes. So I'm hoping to get a bit of feedback from the vegetarians and vegans and non-seafood people about whether or not that kind of worked as well with the wine in particular.
So I think you're
Marilyn, something's going on in the back of your kitchen. I'm wondering what it is.
Well, I'm very lucky to have my own in-house chef, and he's coming up and he's warming up the salmon for us at this point.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for that.
Perfect.
At least that's what I think what's happening. If you see him escaping with the jewels and the mink stole, then let me know. Interesting because and there it is. Thank you.
I'm wearing pants, just so we know.
Good to know. You wouldn't think most Chardonnays are going to be not a great match to a salmon or a fish, because oh my God, they have to hammer them with oak. But I think it's interesting that the potato that you use that probably mimics the texture. So really what we're talking about is you're bringing the flavor of the lemon to the wine, and you're bringing the maple and the mustard to the wine. Is that a fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And the salmon and the potato were a conduit.
Yeah. And for the new folks on the call, when we do a white flight, if you got your food kit and you don't have the other wines open, Teresa and the volunteers do a very good job of trying to make everything on the front page match with whatever wine you have, and try them all. And there's no wrong answers, and we don't judge in this board.
And if I get it wrong, let me know.
That's right. So do we feel like we're ready to turn the page? Speaking of that, are we ready to go?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, partially red, it's a little bit pinky on the way. Everyone has the rosé in their kit.
Yes. All right. So Shiraz is going to talk a little bit more from his presentation, and then we'll switch to the red flight. All good?
Okay. Yep, for sure. All good. Where was I? I guess I got this. I landed on this picture. I guess you can see this. I hope this is a picture of the crew that makes it all happen. And I think it's always worth kind of showing faces and getting to know the people involved. I think that's what people like to see. So on the image on the left, you have the winemaking team, which includes myself and Elisa Matzi in the middle. To the left of the picture, the tall guy is Tristan Bondet. He's our vineyard manager, but he also doubles as a wine judge, so he knows wines really well. And so it's great to have a person running the vineyards who loves wine as much as he does. And it's different because not all farmers are winemakers. All winemakers like to think we're farmers, but not all of them are. In fact, most winemakers aren't. But I certainly love to get into the fields and into the tractors with Tristan as much as possible, and really feel the soil. You know, if you're working it, if you're doing some grape pulling. You don't really see the changes in soil until you've actually tilled it, and then you see a change in color, or you see a change in the consistency of the soil, or the amount of stones and rocks. It's really informative, and so it's really cool to do that. And then on the right hand side of that picture, holding onto the ladder, is Dan Stauck, who brings a ton of experience to our team. He grew up right across the road from the winery, and he is the sixth generation grape grower on his farm. So he has tons of experience, and he's also the, 11-time barrel rolling champion of Niagara. So he also is like the strongest and quickest guy in the cellar, and so he's assistant winemaker and de facto cellar master for me, and so he takes care of all the gritty details, and you need people like that on your team. And then on the right is our vineyard crew, and again you see Tristan, who leads up our team, and we have Malin and Vivian and Adam, Steve, Michael, and Barry, and they get to know every vine. So much of the work is done by hand, and in this modern world where labor is hard to come by, and costs are high, so and technology has advanced so much that you will want to mechanize and reduce labor. I still think it's so important that we hang on to our crew that does all the work. All our fruit on our farms are handpicked, and that step alone is paramount in keeping the quality as high as we need it to be. But so much other stuff is done. Every vine is pruned by Tristan or Steve during the winter months. Nobody else does it, and so except for me, I'll go and do a little bit on my farm, but not much. And all the handwork in terms of thinning the shoots and then thinning the fruit, really to get the spacing, is done by this crew right there. So I think it's important to share the fact that we have a great team, and we manage our own farms. There's a lot of wineries that either they buy most of their fruit from growers, and we buy some fruit, like about 40% of our fruit from really solid growers within the peninsula. But there's a lot of wineries that have custom farm operations come in, and that works really well. But you don't know your fruit as well as when you farm it yourself. So I think that's really important for us. It's a point of distinction, and I think it helps elevate the quality of what we do. And then, of course, there's the other half of it, what I like to call the front of the house team, administration and cellar door. You've probably met many of these people if you're customers of ours. On the top, you have Eric Nixon, who started a month before me, and he's still there. If you're one of the original fans of Malivoire, you would have met Eric. He's replaced by Christine, who's right beside him. She's great and full of energy. Stephen Gash is our general manager, and Tammy is a senior manager in customer sales. If you're part of our club, and you're more than welcome to join our club too. She's the key person there. So hopefully you've met Tammy. And then on the bottom, you have Jem, who does all the shipping, and he probably packed all the wines that you got. And Stacy, if you call, make an order, she's the one that does that. And I think everyone sort of focuses on the winemaker, but we're nothing without a team like this. So I always like to give them recognition too, and people like Nancy, who do the closers, as we like to call them.
Well done.
Yeah, of course. Winer of the year. I knew Nancy was going to mention it, but we were bottling and my back was sore, so I didn't really want to be out on the line. Yesterday was a really hard day, so I decided to play around and make a few pictures that reminded me to say that we are the current Canadian Winer of the Year, which is worth mentioning again. It's thank you. It's a big deal. Funny, we've been sending wines for years to the organization that Wineline that does the judging, and we've always thought our wines aren't really showy. They're more if you get it, you understand it, but they don't show in competition. But for whatever reason, I think it's not us that's changed, to be honest. I really think it's just the tasters have kind of caught up to what we're doing and the style and the approach, and it really resonated, and we ended up receiving 3 platinum awards, which has never been done before. And so I'm really proud of our team for doing that, and especially because they're wines that are the exact opposite of being showy wines, like our Gamay and our blend, our analog red, which is a blend, and a sparkling rosé. Just beautifully in tune wines, and that's really great that they got that. And so I thought I would have gone through this really fast, and now we would start tasting, but maybe we can now start tasting the rosé and red flight.
And I think that's a perfect lead into it. Yeah.
But I'll stop sharing, so you can go back to your flight of the
okay, next one.
Flight. Yeah.
All right. So the Ladybug Rosé. Now, everybody got this in their kit, right? They got a can of Ladybug Rosé. And unfortunately, we recalled the salad. First time in 7 years, we recalled a food item. But you know what? The dressing wasn't quite right. So if you have a salad or some cheese or some goat cheese or something to have with your Ladybug Rosé, in fact, many things would work with this rosé. But Shiraz, tell us about the rosé.
So this is one of those wines where we do purchase the majority of the fruit because we don't grow a lot of Cabernet Franc. But what is important is that I work with the growers, and they understand that they're growing for rosé, which doesn't mean they can do anything less to the wine. They actually have to work even harder for me. But it's nice that I can pick it without them being worried that I'm going to pick it too early, or it's not at its peak. We make financial arrangements so that I have pure flexibility as to when to pick, so that we get balance and we get the acidity, because there's, you know, if you don't get the right balance, it's not a great rosé. And I really want to focus on that, and the fruit as well. When you pick for rosé versus red, there you will be looking for different character and fruit. And Cabernet Franc, which is the main component here, is the one that I really try. You can actually see like two different styles of fruit come as the grapes are ripening, and that early kind of fresh strawberry note you get sort of at the early stage of the harvest, and then as it goes later, you get into more of the blackberry and peppery notes and cassis, that kind of flavor. So picking early for rosé is so important with Cabernet Franc. So this is mostly Cabernet Franc and Gamay, and a little bit of Pinot Noir from our estate Pinot Noir that goes to rosé. And we're just looking for just really lovely balance and fruitiness, and there's just a hint of sweetness, but it's still a very dry rosé. And putting it in a can was this is sort of our first thing for us, a first trial, because it has been the top selling VQA rosé for many years, especially when we were like the only rosé in town. I think rosé had a huge renaissance, and starting like 6 years ago or so, and it has not stopped since. So we're really thrilled to know that we were on the cutting edge of rosé. And what we always like to say again, and I mentioned it, it's we're trying to make rosé. We're not declassifying a red and making it into rosé. It is with pure intention, and I think that's what makes a great rosé. And since we don't have anything to taste, unless you have your own salad.
What would you pair with this rosé?
Oh, I'm gonna try the chips, but I certainly, you know, this goes with almost anything, and that's the beautiful thing about this rosé. I love it with hors d'oeuvres. You know, like shrimp cocktail or little, you know, little. What am I thinking of here? Spring rolls, you know, stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, a little bit of fried, you know, a little calamari, pizza. It will always work for pizza. So yeah.
Okay. So try the, yep.
Don't you think that rosé is one of those wines that's kind of middle of the road? It can go either way. You can have it with so many things. And
absolutely. So I think rosé is a great food wine.
It is
I think in the early days, I think in the early days it was a tad on the sweet side, and so and it was light, and it was a girly afternoon sunshine drinking wine.
Still is.
That's changed. That's changed. So some of the most robust. So we rosés made from Tempranillo, from Pinot Noir, from different
Shiraz.
Yes. But full-bodied. Well, not as full-bodied as the full red, of course, but good food wines, like medium-bodied.
Yep.
I don't know.
Can be Cab Franc, can be Cab Sauv.
Yes, Cab Franc I love in a rosé. Pinot Noir, Gamay. Yeah.
And
anyway, I personally think they're good food wines. Yeah.
Great food wines.
Absolutely. What I love is the flavors from each variety as well, right? You know, every variety gives you something different, whether it's the silky texture that you get from Pinot Noir, or you know, that lovely, like I said, fresh strawberries from Cabernet Franc, or just a fruit bomb of cherries that you get from Gamay. It's all there. Sometimes you get a little bit more melon, sometimes a little bit more grapefruit. But
and if you think,
go Go ahead,
I
Teresa.
was just gonna say, if you think lunch in the summer, that's perfect. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
sure.
sorry to interrupt.
No worries. No, I'm all. I was just going to say that when I visited Provence and was in cellars right after their harvest, and they're using Mourvedre and Cinsault and Grenache as their base, and it was the same sort of thing. They all needed something from each variety to bring it together, and we kind of do the same thing with our Ladybug. Now with our other rosés from Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is so complex, we get it off just from Pinot Noir alone. So that's pretty special. But we should talk about Gamay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
If anyone asks me what my favorite red to make is, it's absolutely Gamay. And the Small Lot Gamay is one of my faves. It's all estate grown. It all comes from our estate vineyard. Which is just beautiful, planted in 1998 to 1999, so 20-year-old vines now, and just amazing how much intense fruit we get from Gamay in Niagara, and I think from Ontario, and we should not hold back on Gamay. It's been the one variety that I feel like I can go anywhere in the world and show off my Gamay, and it knocks everybody's socks off, including Beaujolais. It's that impressive. And we have the perfect climate to do amazing things. And I've been lucky enough to have about 7 or 8 acres of Gamay to play with, just from our own site. And so I can do some different things. For example, I can use whole cluster grapes in my red ferment for some carbonic maceration, which brings a different kind of lightness and a more floral, candied-like aromatic. I love to ferment in different vessels, so I use stainless steel, but I also use oak and I use concrete, and each one is used in this wine and can contribute something to the wine, whether it's a really interesting, it's like music in a way, and sound, and so like a wooden vessel will give you like a studio sound, really warm and rich, and stainless steel will just give you clean, pure sound, and then concrete gives you like this really beautiful resonance. It's kind of like cathedral like. And I think that is so beautiful to kind of play, and you see it with Gamay, and I think you can tell I really like working with Gamay and seeing these things and this discovery, and it just keeps me going back the next year to trying to discover something new about it. And then in terms of aging, we do about a 50-50 split, maybe more of a 60-40 split with aging in barrel stainless steel. And then putting it together, because I like the stainless steel. I like preserving that fruitiness as it ages, but the oak does bring some roundness to the wine. And but I only use old oak, so the barrels have to be at least 5 years old before I use them for Gamay, and they can be as old as 10 or 12 years old. Because I'm not really looking for the oak flavor anymore, the toast. These barrels don't really give much in that regard, but they still round out the wine, and that's important. But it can only be for a very short amount of time, so 5 months, 6 months, and it's time to come out of barrel. So I'm actually planning my April emptying of Gamay very shortly for the 2021 vintage. Anyway, I probably didn't even talk about what you should expect in this wine, but
So, okay, I have a question again. So Thomas Botchelder, as I'm sure you know, he's doing all kinds of different Gamays, and he's classifying them as like Gamay Krug, like because he comes from Burgundy, or trained in Burgundy to start with. So have you given any thought to doing the same kind of thing, or like, because you're obviously a Gamay person.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Where would you put your Gamay in all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't prescribe to the same sort of strong old world philosophy that Thomas does. I mean, but I guess it's very easily translatable. So what we call our farmstead Gamay would clearly be what Thomas would call his village Gamay. And our small lots, that's definitely a cru Gamay. And then we have our single vineyards on top of that, which might be if they could be called, just designated as maybe not Grand Crus, but its own individual climat, and it kind of goes the same way. I think we are making.
There's kind of something to be said for that, no? In terms of a common terminology, especially with Bordeaux or with Burgundy. No.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and following the lead, maybe less of Burgundy and maybe more of Beaujolais. They really classify as either it's village or it's cru village, right? And or it's just Beaujolais. And so I think I'm cool with that. We're both learning, and I talk to Thomas a lot about Gamay. He calls me, and it ends up being a 35-minute kind of deep dive into this, and it goes on to that tangent, as you know. Like where we're guiding ourselves in terms of whole cluster preference. And he asked me, which is great. This is the only time where Thomas asks me stuff. I feel really, yeah, exactly. I'm like Thomas, you got to try this, and you never know what the percentage of whole cluster is going to be, because every vineyard will want to do it differently. You'll have to play around until you get the sweet spot. And he's been doing that. So, and as he's doing it, he's actually showcasing what he's learning by having different kinds of whole cluster. So it's fun. I love the fact that he, after 20 years of being, only about Chardonnay and Pinot, it's like he's got Gamay by the bullhorns, and he's so riding it. So it's really cool.
Yeah. So, and it's so good to see both of you doing it. Like what you're doing is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Gamay is such an important variety for Ontario, and I say this because one of the, 13th Street has done so much good stuff with it. But Chateau des Charmes has, and probably many of your members know, Chateau des Charmes has the only registered Canadian vinifera grape variety, and it's Gamay Noir. So it is a clone of Gamay that was originally discovered here on North American soil, and so it's. And nowhere else in North America can lay claim to vinifera developing in their soil. So I think that's cool that it happened with Gamay, and it's a story that needs to really be like repeated again and again. That Gamay is our grape.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, Pinot Noir. I think you brought one of those too, or we have one of those as well.
You do have one. I hope it's the 2020 Small Lot, and like food pairings for, well, you guys have the cheese, that's great. I think there's because it's a lighter style red, you can go with poultry, as well as hamburgers are great with Gamay. Again, pizza and pasta. There's enough acidity in Gamay that the tomato sauce will work well. But yeah, I'm a big burger and Gamay or pizza and Gamay kind of guy. But there's it's pretty versatile. You can go to I wouldn't say salmon so much, but you can try a fish as well.
So Teresa, just before we move on, and I'm conscious at the time we're going a little bit longer, which always happens when we have a fabulous winemaker on the call. But before we move away from these two varietals, there were some specific questions. So I wonder, Shiraz or Nancy, if you can talk about the Rosé Moira. I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
Moira?
The Rosé Moira. Thank you. Can you talk about that? And I understand it's on sale. So
Yeah. So the 2021 is just on release today. This is the first release. So this is all Pinot Noir, all from a single vineyard, the Moira vineyard. That's the vineyard that Martin and his wife Moira first found when they moved to Niagara and planted. And it's a warmer site. So it's where I start my harvest, and the Pinot is beautifully fruity, but it's made. I have to be very careful. So it's picked early in the morning, because because it ripens early, it's still warm in the season. So I only pick up until around 10 o'clock in the morning, just to preserve the fresh fruit. And it's hand picked, and it goes directly into the press. So there's no maceration with the skins. There's no trying to extract color. It's actually very pale. You could confuse it with a Pinot Gris in terms of color. It's so pale. But it is a true rosé. It goes into a dairy tank, again, to chill, but also to give it a little bit of, there's a bottle.
Sorry, it's empty.
As all good rosé bottles are.
It's Art Deco. It's a fabulous label and fabulous wine.
Yeah, so that's I think it's an amazing rosé. One of the best you'll find. I guarantee you that. And just a lot of care that goes into ensuring that we maintain the freshness, and yet because of the vineyard site, we get this natural richness as well. And so it's our top tier rosé, if you will, our cru rosé.
So I want to tell you something funny, and Shiraz, you'll get a kick out of this, because I've had a lot of tastings this week with people, and when I've brought the Rosé Moira out, I've had a few of them say, "Did you call it Rosé Moira because Moira rose from Schitt's Creek?"
Yeah.
So is that why you switched the name around and called it Rosé Moira?
Well, I can't believe we got this right or wrong, depending on your
oh my God, it's amazing.
What sort of marketing you believe in. But I never understood. We came out with this wine in 2013, so it predated when. Well, I don't know if it predates the show, maybe a little bit, but it definitely predates the. Yeah, okay. But for whatever reason, Martin's like, we're going to call it Rosé Moira, not Moira Rosé. And there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that happened. And he knows them. He knows Catherine O'Hara, and he knows Eugene Levy from.
Oh, wow. I was such a huge fan of the show, and I never thought about that. But I've had customers ask me, and I went, wow.
Yeah, you can say we got there first.
Yeah.
So just before we move on, and I'm conscious of everyone's time, Nancy, you did jump in. There was a question about the difference between the Gamay that we have and the Courtney Gamay, so the small lot.
Yeah.
And your answer was about single lot, but maybe we just want to pass that by Shiraz before we move on to the next wine and finish.
Shiraz, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't want to speak for him.
No, it's okay. I'll be very quick. So the Courtney is a block within our estate vineyard. So when you come to the winery, it is the little plateau just above the ravine as you're driving up the hill, and it's just got a different site. A terroir. There's something special about it. The fruit hangs longer, whether there's a bit more breeze that keeps the fruit drier so it can ripen longer, and there's more sunlight because it's not shaded by the escarpment. Either way, I can let the fruit hang a little longer, and so it's always come in later, and we've always made a different wine out of it. And because it's got so much intensity to it, I've tended to put it in barrel a little longer, It was just sort of the original concept of if we wanted to make a single, and this predates sort of me as the head winemaker, if we want to make a Gamay that really stands out, we're going to make it like and treat it like our baby, our Pinot Noir too, like in the same sort of way. So we do a full destem, we do a long maceration, and we do a longer barrel aging with a little bit of new oak. So totally different. But it's a beautiful, beautiful wine. I feel like it stands apart from being Gamay and just being an iconic red from Malivoire.
Mhm.
Great, thank you for that. So that moves us into the small lot Pinot Noir. And then Teresa will talk about why chocolate is how we always end our meeting.
Yes. So and of course, there are many options in terms of the Gamay and the Pinot Noir, but in all fairness, our club, we kind of start with potato chips with a sparkling, and we end with a cheddar cheese and a chocolate with our 2 red wines, and then we do different things in between. So yes, we could have done many things with for the food pairings, but these ones are kind of classic and they work within our budget too.
Perfect. Budget is important these days with inflation, so it's not cheap to go to the grocery store anymore.
That's right.
So I'll be brief with the small lot Pinot Noir, and we call it small lot because back before we started using the majority of our Pinot Noir for rosé, we used to make a big lot of Pinot Noir, and then we had the small lot of Pinot Noir. And then things transitioned, but we really didn't make the small lot Pinot Noir any bigger or any smaller, it just sort of stayed the same. So we've just maintained the name Small Lot Pinot Noir. But it is a blend of 2 vineyards. The Moira vineyard, again, really fruity, floral, very ethereal in nature, can be so beautiful. And then my vineyard, which is higher up, again, as I've mentioned, and tends to have a little bit more structure and darker notes and more earthy, and put them together and you get the beautiful combination. So sometimes it's really important to be able to make a wine, which I think sometimes the sum is I'm screwing up the slogan, but you know what I mean. The sum are more than its parts, or whatever. The parts are more than its sum. I don't know, but you know what I mean. You take 2 vineyards and you get 2 different characteristics, and when you put them together, it's even more. And I think that always happens with the small lot Pinot Noir. So this ages in barrel for just under a year. Again, I don't like too much oak in our wines. I think you see a lot of balance and structure only after about 9 or 10 months in barrel before pulling it out and putting it together. And I think it's kind of this balance again of fruit and freshness and just all kind of coming together. How does it work with chocolate?
Yum.
Thank you. I just lost it. Just dropped. Someone got it. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Thank you.
Really good.
Nice Pinot.
Yummy. Delicious Pinot. Soft, lovely.
And if you missed out on getting up the Pinot when you originally signed up, we do have 6 left over from the purchase that we made from Malivoire. There is an inventory of other items, so reach out to Teresa if you found a favorite or you missed out on getting something when you registered, because we just might have an inventory of it. Nancy, help us understand, are all the wines available tonight at the LCBO as well if we run out of our inventory?
No. No, they're not.
Okay.
No. They're available at the winery or through me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So through Nancy.
Through Nancy at kennedycrew.com.
So Carrie is asking about the first wine that we had, the Melon de Bourgogne.
Melon de Bourgogne.
Yes?
Winery only, yeah.
Okay. So get in the car, don't grab the kids, grab your
Well,
best
No,
friend.
you can order.
You know what?
for me.
We'll do a follow-up email with everybody and let them know where they can get the wines and okay.
Right.
Works for you? All right. So, oops.
So would you like me to wrap this up a little bit?
Yeah, you know what?
Perfect.
I was going to
And
go
then-
into the next one, but yes, you yeah.
I just want to thank all your members. They're incredible. And they've put up with me many times and probably seen many hairstyles through the last 2.5 years. And yeah, wow. It's surreal, isn't it, that we got through these 2 years and we're coming out. Anyway, it's my pleasure always to be with you people. You're amazing and you're always supportive and it's just lovely. It's such a pleasure. And it was a thrill tonight for me to have Shiraz. I think it's the first time I've had a winemaker with me, and it's just so wonderful. And he's so fantastic. And I'm so proud of him and his team and the whole winemaker team at production at Malivoire and everyone that works there. They're a small group, family size, just great people. I encourage you to visit the winery. It's great, welcoming, fabulous people. I want to thank Teresa and Marilyn for all their hard work, and they do. And they put their heart into it, and it's just a pleasure to work with all of you. And thanks again, and I hope to see you soon. And take care.
Awesome. Oh. Why do I have such trouble with the tech? Oh, no, there we go.
There you go.
You're so good. Okay. So, all right. So thank yous. End of the evening. So Nancy and Shiraz. So Nancy, you've been here a number of times. Awesome. Shiraz, thank you so much for joining us.
My
and
pleasure.
a little bit of trivia. So I understand you, I just learned tonight that you just started at Malivoire in about 2005?
Well, I actually started in 2000 as cellar hand.
Okay.
But
All
yeah,
right.
2005, I took over the reins.
Okay. So in 2006, I was doing my sommelier and my class came and met you. I met you in 2006 as I was doing my song. Just a bit of trivia.
Aww.
I remember you, but you would not remember me.
Well, nice
Anyway,
to have a chance to share some time together again.
Awesome. So Nancy and Shiraz, awesome. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
My volunteers, oh my goodness, you know, this whole club runs on volunteers, right? So Marilyn, thank you. You're awesome. Everybody knows you and it's wonderful. Membership, Sue, and we've even increased our membership this year, which is like kind of bizarre in a virtual time zone. And you handle everything, which is awesome. Pick a point, Mike and Marilyn, both, all the pickups happen at their place and they just organize everything and it's wonderful. Wine and food. So I have a core team, Dorothy, Lorraine, Kathy, you were all here like for 2 days, and Anne and Carl, if you're still on the Carl call, we missed you, but we expect you back working next month. Wine sales. So if anybody wants additional wines or she tracks all the payments and everything else, does all the like annoying stuff that I don't like to do. And that's Monique. And social media and wine trips, Danielle. So social media, so all of our partners get promoted on our Burlington Wine Club site, and Danielle handles all of that. And when we're back to be able to go and do a trip or whatever, and maybe we can talk to Malivoire about arranging a trip out there. That's Danielle. So like just an awesome team that we wouldn't exist without the whole team. Next month, Sylvester Wine and Spirits. Lindsay is going to be joining us. She's going to have wines as opposed to ports, but we have should be fun next month. Anyway, that's it.
So Teresa,
Everybody can go.
just a bit of housekeeping from my side.
Absolutely.
Everyone received a little bottle in their kit. What should we do with this bottle? Should it come back to the club? Should it be going into the recycle bin? Like, help us to understand. Some very
Okay.
well-intentioned member left me 40 of them at my doorstep. Thank you for that.
I know. So you know what?
I just wanna do the
So
right
the
thing.
thing is, yeah. So the thing is, they go out there. They're yours. You have absolutely. There's no obligation. If you want to bring them back, great. We'll take them. I will sterilize them. I will reuse them. But it's entirely up to you. No obligation. But if you want to recycle, hey, go for it. But seriously, keep them, reuse them yourself, or bring them back.
If you are
Totally up
going
to you.
somewhere, I'm just going to say they fit nicely into a purse or a pocket. I'm not going to say, what you.
That's right. You can
choices
put
tonight that you might
whatever.
fit it. But
Yeah,
yes.
they're reusable. Trust me.
They're reusable. They're very reusable.
Picnics,
Picnic.
airplanes.
I'm not going on
whatever.
a picnic with you. I like you a lot, but I'm
I
not
know.
going on a picnic. All right, I think you need to give us the.
Anyway,
We're a little bit past 9 o'clock. You need to. I'm going to make you not the spotlight, and we're going to do a cheers.
perfect.
Everyone, and then there will be some socializing for those who wish to stay. Otherwise, I
Yep.
think we've had
Okay,
a lovely evening.
awesome. Thank you, folks. Nancy and Shiraz and all of you guys. Oh my goodness. Another good evening, I think. Cheers.
Thank you very
Unmute
much.
yourselves and say cheers.
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 Cheers. You guys are amazing.
Cheers.
Be well.
Cheers to everyone.
All good.
Can't hear you, Willem. Can't hear you, Lydia.
So the official part of the evening is over, but if anybody wants to stay on and chat, that's cool too.
Nancy and Shiraz, I have
Thank
been to
you.
the winery on several occasions. I love the Che Bello. Mwah, bellissimo. Wow.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. I love it.
That's
That's great.
great, Danielle. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Great.